The Archon character of Nod Cry, Columbina, is joining the game in version 6.3. And finally, for the first time, we are getting fairly reliable pre-release information about her kit. So in this video, we're going to go through everything that she does, as well as the other two new characters that are releasing in the same patch as her. Let's get started. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The version Luna 2 banners featuring Arlecchino and Zhongli are finally here. If you're planning on spending for these or any future banners, let me recommend Loot Bar. I have been personally using Loot Bar for over a year, and I've spent thousands of dollars on my personal account. They are safe, using currency exchange to get you discounts on the crystals you were going to buy anyways. They have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. They're very easy to use. Just choose the pack you want, enter your UID and region, and your top up is delivered in minutes. New users also get a 10% coupon. Returning users get a 5% and 3% discounts. And if you plan on buying currency for Miliastra Wonderland or other games like Honkai Star Rail or Zenless Zone Zero, you can also do that through Loot Bar. It's partnerships like these that allow me to continue bringing the content I do to the channel, as well as supporting my family. So thanks to Loot Bar for sponsoring the video. All right, first of all, this is very early pre-release information. Same as we had early pre-release information for Durin, for Flynn's, for Nefer, for Llama, for Escoffier, for Inefa, for everyone we get early pre-release information. It's usually around 90% accurate overall. I would say Durin was probably the biggest miss in that everything was accurate about the shred, about the Hexen Circle stuff, about the off-field damage. The early kit leaks did say he healed, and he ended up not healing. So there's some things could be wrong. So this isn't 100% guaranteed, but I do expect the majority of all of this to be correct. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel for updates. We'll be obviously covering Columbina very, very heavily, and we'll get definitely new information in the next couple weeks for sure when we get more reliable stuff with betas and things like that. But for now, this is the early information we have. So she is going to be a Hydro character. Obviously, we knew that. All of the lunar reactions have been Hydro. And then she's going to be a catalyst because of course she is. Every character in the game is every Hydro character in the game is a catalyst, it seems. And for her kit, she is going to be a lunar reaction dedicated buffer. So she's not going to buff, you know, what the hopium that I had maybe is that she'd buff crit damage, since all of the lunar characters also scale off of crit damage, and if they wanted to make her more universal, you know, she could buff EM, buff crit damage. But no, it seems like they're going to specifically zero in on lunar reaction buffing. And the lunar reactions are going to include Lunar Charge, Lunar Bloom, and the new one, Lunar Crystallize. Lunar Crystallize being, of course, the Geo reaction, and apparently Lunar Crystallize is going to be locked to Hydro Crystallize. So Geo and Hydro only, not Pyro Crystallize or Electro Crystallize, etc. Apparently it's going to be locked to just Hydro, which sort of makes sense as, again, all of the lunar reactions have focused on Hydro reaction. We don't know. One thing is that if she'll be able to enable these reactions herself. I'm assuming yes, right? I think it's fairly safe to assume yes. It'd be a bit weird if you put her onto the team and she didn't enable them herself. I feel like regardless of whether you have a different Nod Cry character on the team, that Columbina is going to enable lunar reactions on whatever team it is. I'm quite confident in that, but we don't know that for sure. The early information didn't say either way. Apparently she's going to do good off-field damage. Apparently it's better than Farina. I would say Farina's off-field damage is like okay at this point. So her being better than Farina means anything from like okay to amazing off-field damage, right? Being better than Farina, if it's only as good as Farina, I would say it's like not that crazy. And the reason I say this is because if you look at modern teams that Farina is good on, such as Skirk especially, you're better off tanking her damage to put her on support artifact sets. So I would say that Farina's damage, it used to be really, really good, and now it's sort of on the not lower end. It's still okay. Like, it's still good personal damage, but it's nothing crazy. So I would expect Columbina to do quite a bit more, but that's all the information we have right now. For stats, apparently she's using Energy Recharge, Elemental Mastery, HP, and Crit. So this makes sense. She's a Hydro character, so HP and Crit makes sense. EM makes sense for all the reaction damage. And then ER, I don't believe that this is going to be, does more damage based on ER. She probably just needs to use her burst, and it's very important to her kit. So it's important to have ER on her. Apparently the burst has a 20-second duration and a 15-second cooldown. And then they describe the animation as spreading her wings, opening her eyes, and creating a field on the moon's surface. Probably going to look really cool. I mean, she's the Archon character. It's going to look amazing. It would be really funny because she has wings, right? So it'd be really funny, sad if she had wings, she could fly, and then Durin couldn't fly. That would be really funny to me. But yeah, so she also, her signature weapon, we have a little bit of information. We know it's going to give some ER. Seems like ER is going to be very important for her. It makes sense to me because otherwise, if ER wasn't important to her, you could just throw Thrilling Tales on her, and you know, Thrilling Tales would work with Flynn's, and they probably don't want you to use Thrilling Tales. They probably want you to use, if ER is a big part of her kit, her free-to-play weapon is probably going to be the Liar, which gives EM and ER, that event weapon that people mostly use on Llama right now. And then, yeah, her signature, if it gives ER, I'm sure it'll give other stats too, right? I'm sure it'll give crit and HP and EM and, you know, heal your sick rabbit. I'm sure it's going to be a very good weapon. Lately, they've been putting more and more stats into signature weapons, and I expect that her weapon will be good. For like context, like historical context, Mawika had the very best, I think the very best signature weapon in the game in terms of a team damage upgrade. So I do expect Columbina's weapon to be really good. Before that, Farina's weapon is kind of mid unless you're playing her like basically with Novelette or with, at the time, like Raiden or something. So, I mean, it could be mid weapon. Maybe you want to go for cons instead, but I think probably her weapon is going to be good. And then she's also getting a new dedicated artifact set, which is the first time ever that an Archon is not using the 0.0 artifact set. And apparently that this artifact set will buff lunar reaction damage, which, surprise, surprise, this would, someone made a good point in chat on this, is that it's likely that if it buffs lunar reaction damage, that maybe finally we can get rid of instructors on our artifact sets. And so someone will be using this set, someone will be using Silken Moon Serenade, and then someone will be using, at least for Bloom teams, I guess, someone will be using the Deepwood Memories artifact set. So might be able to get rid of instructors on a bunch of teams. So that'd be kind of cool. And then yeah, Deepwood for Nodcry, or for Bloom, and then VV for Flynn's. So that seems like that would make sense. And then not only did we get Colombina information, but we also got information for the White Horse Adeptus character. So I do believe that this patch is falling alongside, Lunar New Year. Lunar New Year, holy shit, because lunar. So White Horse Adeptus is likely going to be a best in slot pairing with Columbina, and apparently going to be a Geo sword user and a 5-star, obviously, and then a lunar crystallized DPS. I expect, we don't have any other information other than this, by the way. I expect the White Horse Adeptus to be a contender for the strongest DPS in the game, maybe only outshone by Mawika with those crazy new combos, but I do expect them to be better than Skirk, and be in that Skirk Mawika range, a tier 0 DPS. That's what I expect, because this seems like it's going to be the same situation as Mawika Sitlali, except inversed. So instead of the Archon being the DPS and the support being the other character, it looks to me like the DPS will be the other character and the Archon will be the support. Now, even though I do think that they will be the strongest DPS, and they'll probably be better than Flynn's and probably be better than Nefer, I don't think that they're the more important pull. Obviously, I think that Columbina is the more important pull. You'd probably rather have Columbina with Nefer than, or Flynn's, rather than have the White Horse without Columbina. But I do expect them to be an extremely strong DPS and probably be on the banner at the same time, and probably feature the other new character, which is the 4-star Geo male. So Element Geo, weapon polearm, going to be a 4-star. They're going to be a lunar crystallized support, and so I expect the team to be White Horse, Columbina, the Geo Male, and who knows what else. We'll look at teams briefly in a second, but lunar crystallized. But yeah, so that's what I expect to be the team. And if you have pulls, if you've been saving, if you didn't go for Lauma and Flynn's and Nefer, then I really expect the smart pull to be to go for this pairing together. I don't think that like obviously they want to, you know, bait people into spending money. So, you know, you get Durin to buff your old characters, and then, oh, the new strongest DPS in the game comes out alongside the must pull Archon. You know, they're obviously trying to make you spend on this patch. But I'm hoping that at least Columbina will enable Lunar Crystallize for other Geo characters, so that even if you, as long as you have some Geo character, I get, like, you know, I don't know, there's not very many good Geo characters, but hopefully you can defeat the Geo shill with just Columbina, because we're definitely gonna have Geo shill after this character. And yeah, Lunar Crystallize only works with Hydro, like we said before. So that was a lot of information. Who is Columbina likely going to work with? Let's go through this super briefly. I mean, Geo characters, it's probably going to be Ito's new best in slot. If we go through from the bottom up, it's not looking, yeah, probably Electro characters. The thing with Electro characters is that they're so good with Overload that even if she enables Lunar Charge, and even if you have a Nefa, aside from Flynn's, I don't know how well they're going to work. Like I could see the, you know, say an Nefa Columbina wheelchair team. Maybe that would be Cloran's best team, right? And the wheelchair would be strongest. Maybe even Nefa Columbina wheelchair making Arlecchino be strongest, right? It's like that could be a really strong wheelchair option, because Pyro doesn't, you know, ruin the reaction. Vape, you'd have to run an Efa, which means that you'd for Moika, so you'd have to sacrifice something. So I don't see it working with Moika. I don't see it working with Skirk, to be honest. I know she's going to do good sub DPS apparently, but I don't see it working outside of lunar reaction damage. I'm guessing her sub DPS is going to be tied to having lunar reactions happen. So I don't expect it to work with these types of characters. Who else? You know, I could see it I could see it just the wheelchair being, you know, really strong for a lot of teams. But for actual synergy, I expected Veresa to stay strongest with Overloaded, and then like a real best in slot. And of course, this is so subject to change because we only know the very basics of her kit. But we'll put Navia up there. Yeah, I'm gonna say Mualani, no way. Kinich, probably not. I expect Columbina to be versatile in the way that she can wheelchair a lot of the cast, maybe something like that. And of course, as we get actual numbers, as we get more, we'll be able to more accurately talk about these things. Let's see if Chad has any other ideas. Yeah, and to be clear, she's also going to wheelchair the Geo characters, right? All of these Geo characters, it's going to be a wheelchair as well. But at least, you know, hopefully, if she enables Geo Crystallize or Lunar Crystallize, that'll be some actual synergy. So that's the very early thoughts. Am I excited for this kit? I think I am. I think it's going to be good. But I don't know. I think we just need to know a bit more information. And like, as long as she enables lunar reactions for anyone, then I think that things will be very exciting. And if she can't, then things could get very boring. So, but I'm quite hopeful that she can. So let me know what your thoughts, and again, subscribe to, you know, be updated on this in the future. Check out the podcast down below. And if you don't want to do any of that, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.